Hello everybody and welcome back to Victoria, where we find ourselves in some pretty dire straits here. And what we really need to do is buy ourselves a little bit more time to get some construction done. Now, ideally, we finish up these paper mills. Those are 21 weeks away right now. And then in private constructions, we need to finish the textile mills. And then we really want to get done with this tooling workshop, right? Before we run out of money. That's not going to happen at the current juncture. So that's understood. We've also got a bit of an issue with migration. I looked previously, and the migration is primarily coming... It looks like it's not showing up right now, but it was primarily from, I believe it was Indiana and Illinois, and maybe a little bit of Ohio. That was mostly where the migration was coming from. So that's understood. There wasn't that much migration in our northern states, for now. But I think we have no choice at this point but to lower some of our production methods. So we're going to take ourselves in government administration down to filing cabinets. That will get rid of our input goods shortage of paper, but also put us in a shortage of bureaucracy. And that's understood. This is a trade-off I feel like we have to make. That also saves us a decent amount of cash. So with that in mind, we also want to reduce our tool usage if we can. So for now, what do we have that actually uses a lot of tools? Well, our maize farms do, and we don't get a lot out of our maize farms. So we might want to consider going to ox-powered plows. It'll hurt our... but it'll make our tools a little bit better. They're still expensive, though, so we probably want to think about something else. How much tools are we using in our iron mines? A fair amount, but how much are we using in our logging camps? That's where a big amount of our tools are going. No doubt about that. So if we wanted to further drop the price of tools, we could certainly go from sawmills down to simple forestry. I'm going to do that for now. So that should fix a significant chunk of our economy. The idea behind that is that gets people employed again, at the very least, and buys us time, bringing up our GDP again, at least somewhat, so that our credit limit gets recalculated. That's the hope. We'll see what happens with that. Let's give it a week tick and see where that's at. We can immediately see the GDP did rise from that. Okay. So far so good on that front. We're definitely seeing a lot more credit cap. That's very good. Let's finish up our current... So that paper mill will finish up eventually, and at this point, we would be still losing money, but we'd be losing a lot less money. Understood. It'd be a shame if that train kept suffering delays. Okay, so I don't love doing that, but here we are. So that's fine for now. Our GDP has tanked again. Okay, hopefully it doesn't keep doing that. Okay, it's recovering a little bit. Good. Our credit limit is much better now. So wood is currently expensive. We produce that. So I'm not upset about that. We should be hiring into our logging camps in Michigan. Absolutely. In theory. Yeah, 1.2K. So our current number of peasants is dropping. Our standard of living should, in theory, be going up, but as you can see, we do have quite a lot of migration, and I want to look at where that is. So no migration in Ohio, no migration, 210, and then 1.01K. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to improve our migration attraction in these areas. So I'm going to, for the time being, I'm going to drop promoting of national values in these areas, and we're going to do a greener grass campaign in both of these areas where we're seeing weekly migration. We're going to just try to increase that a little bit. Okay. So it's maybe slightly better. We still need to get Bulgarians integrated, right? But it's maybe slightly improving. Okay. We're still dropping in our population. That's understood. Our credit limit is going up, though, and that... So let's run this for 14 more weeks and hope that we don't run out of money before then. That's the idea here. Our standard of living is starting to come up a little bit, and that's a very good sign. So, paper is currently expensive, that's okay, but we have no shortages at this moment. There's construction sector throughput. That's not a big deal. That means that we'll construct 15% faster, but that also means it'll cost us 15% more. So that's understood. So we're going to finish up this paper mill in about 10 weeks at this point. That's about 70k here. That should be doable. And as we see our GDP come back up, this is a good sign. We're going to go to just private construction here soon, and that's going to buy us a lot more time. But our balance is still going to be rough. No doubt about that. I don't know if we're going to be able to get the tooling workshop completed. We will wait until the textile mill is done for sure. That's 12 weeks out. And then we'll evaluate if we want to declare bankruptcy early and wipe that out or not. We probably will, is my current thinking. So if we were to declare bankruptcy, we would still be net negative at this moment. There's not much we can do about that. We're maxed on our taxation level. So that's understood. I'm hoping that we're staving off some of the migration. It's rough, for sure. We've still got a lot of peasants out over here in Michigan, and yeah, this is because we would love to be exporting more wood. Unfortunately, there's no one we can export to. So there's only so much that we can do, right? There's only so much. So looking at this, if we go into here, these are our goods with considerable potential for export. We've already maxed this. And these are our goods with considerable import demand. Now, we have a paper mill at this point that is almost done. We have a clothing manufactory, a textile mill, that is nearly done. So these two should not be a big deal. There's wood. We wouldn't mind wood being expensive. That means that we can hire in more people, right? So that seems relatively fine. Okay, let's get these two finished up. 4 weeks on that. That's what we really need right now. So driving down the price of paper will be very good for us. If we look at our goods for government buildings here, you can see we're spending 1.83k per week on paper. That is very, very close. Actually, I think that's pretty much our entire deficit once our interest is wiped out. So that's going to be a big deal to get that reduced. It's not going to completely go away, but it can certainly be reduced. So 2 weeks on that paper mill. Maybe we get a privatization. I would prefer to have the privatization after the bankruptcy, though. So that's 1 week away from finishing right now. There we go. That's now done. We're 2 weeks on this textile mill. Okay. So we're going to run some math as soon as this is over. 48 weeks on this. Do we have the time to get this tooling workshop done? It'll be a little faster than this, so it'll actually be 39 weeks. Okay, do we have the time? Let's find out. Okay, so we've got 428k. Hang on, I messed up the calculator. Excellent. So 428k in credit limit minus 317 is our current debt. And then that gives us 111k divided by 3.58. Assuming that that remains the same, that gives us 31 weeks. And that number will remain roughly the same. So we don't have enough time to finish this tooling workshop. We can't declare bankruptcy until we're in default, right? Correct. Okay, so what can we potentially do to work this up a little bit? Well, we could put in consumption taxes. That's a potential option. Our main issue right now is our unrealized taxes combined with our interest, right? So unrealized taxes are 1.72k. This is 46% tax waste. This is probably due to our very large amount of radicalism. We're working on that. Okay, so the Liberal Party wins with 88.5% of the vote. Do we have any laws that we want to put in that we think would help at this moment? We could try to pass cultural exclusion again. And actually, I think that would be helpful. So we could go for that. But we'll see what ends up happening with it. So at this point, 38 weeks on the tooling workshop. What we really need at this juncture is A, for people to stop leaving. 0 weekly migration here. Minnesota is still heavy on the weekly migration, though. Okay. So, yeah. That's really, really rough. This is mostly due to the standard of living here, right? So maybe what we should do, instead of running the greener grass campaign, is we should get rid of this, and we should instead run emergency relief here. I don't think we can, though. There's not really anything that we can do to fix the problem, except for giving them, like, jobs they can work in, right? They're maxed out on the logging camp. The iron mine is not maxed. They could potentially be hired in there. The maize farm, they could be hired in at. The railway, they could be hired in at. So we have 7.36k job seekers here. That's noted. Okay. I think it's mostly Bulgarians that are leaving at this point. This is rough, no doubt about it. We're not necessarily okay with that. But it's mostly done in Michigan. There is still some here. Struggling, impoverished, and the upper strata is destitute in Michigan. Okay. Well, that's spicy. But look at this. Our standard of living overall is on the rise. So that looks good. Now, tools are currently expensive. We would love to get this tooling workshop finished. For the moment, I think what we need to do is we need to stop encouraging the agricultural industry in Indiana and use that money on consumption taxes. We can do one on tobacco. That'll buy us a little bit of time. We can also back off for the moment, and this is not necessarily ideal. We can back off for the moment here and here on those throughputs. I kind of want to keep the throughput here, but we can do something like that. That'll give us a couple more consumption taxes. We can put one in on fruit, but this isn't good. Wine is not ideal either, but this is just about buying us some time, right? So that is attempting to buy us a little bit of time here. Okay. So that's a thing. No migration in Minnesota at this point. 1.18k again in Minnesota, or rather in Michigan. So that's definitely rough. No doubt about that. Our GDP is recovering, though, as is our standard of living. So in theory, we should be seeing this start to level off eventually. But it's not doing it yet. So as we can see, our credit limit is continuing to go up at this point. It was previously 428, now it's 450. So that's buying us more time to get this tooling workshop completed. Getting that done will be a huge deal for us. We're also going to get this little bit of colonization completed shortly, and so things are rough at this moment. Our economy was not prepared for the shock that it received from the Great Britain Civil War, plus the granting of our own market. So that's definitely very, very rough. No doubt about it. Paper is still expensive. I want to check in on the paper plant here in Indiana and see how that's doing. It has 47 employees. Okay. Well, that's consuming some of that wood. So that's driving the price of wood in the market up, and that should, in theory, be relatively fine. So if I check the population here, population growth is nice, and our weekly migration here is 0. Weekly migration is really only an issue at this exact moment in Michigan. So, to that end, we still have a lot of peasants here. So the issue is qualifications, then. That's interesting. So let's drop the greener grass campaign for now in Minnesota, and let's promote social mobility in Michigan then. And we'll see if we go back to having any migration out of Minnesota. Hopefully not. No. Okay. Beautiful. Here in Michigan, that's definitely a lot better. Only minus 83? Okay, that's back up. That's unfortunate, but for now, that's understood. So we'll start to get these people into some of these jobs, in theory. Yes, we no longer have a shortage of of transportation here now. So that just needs to continue to get settled, right? So for the time being, let's check in on how we're doing on our construction. So we currently have, let me clear out the calculator here. We currently have 457 minus 378, giving us 79 credit limit. Okay, divide that by 3.85. That gives us 20 and a half weeks. We need 30. Noted. I'm going to drop these two consumption taxes. I don't think they do anything. And instead, we're going to run a resource industry here. And we'll probably also run one in Wisconsin, I think. We've got 2 logging camps here. Yeah, let's run a resource industry in Wisconsin as well. I'm hoping that that will significantly boost our GDP and buy us some time there. Let's see what we've got. It dropped. That's unfortunate. We'd love to get the tooling workshop finished. I'm not convinced that we can at this juncture. There's electrical generation unlocked. Not like we can do anything with that. Let's hop over into the society tree and maybe be working on like mutual funds to get more minting. That'll take 8 years to research, but we need something. That's for sure. So that's understood. Our current balance would be still negative at this point if we were to declare bankruptcy. So that's, of course, a significant issue. Can we do an import route of paper? No. Can we do an import route of tools? We don't really produce tools. So that would be the big thing that we'd want to import. And we are importing some of that. But we can take a look at some of our trade routes that we're doing right now. So I think exports, we want to keep whatever exports we can get, right? By and large. At this point, exports are good. Imports, not so much. So if we look at engines right now, did that get rid of it? No, that's just switching us between markets. Okay, so I want to check on our engine situation at this moment. We can produce engines, but we need workers for that, right? So the price of engines is really, really low. And we can see that this would spike the price of engines for our railways if we were to cancel this. I think for the moment, I'm going to leave that one be. And then we've also got this steel, and we don't produce our own steel, so we definitely need to have that. We're currently importing grain. Do we want to be importing grain? Let's check into that. We may or may not want to be importing grain right now. Price is up. Okay, yeah, we want to be importing grain. So by and large, I think we need to be just continuing with what we're doing. Hopefully people stop migrating out of Michigan fairly soon here. And in fact, weekly migration is currently 0. That's a good sign. Our population is growing again then. Cool. So there's a revolution here. This is going to be able to cap at 76. Okay. We can always bring Britain in to fight this revolution if we need to. This is a United Indian Supremacist movement, and it's not terribly surprising. We did jump up to study on the previous tick on this, so that's understood. I don't suppose we can get Britain to do anything here, like take on our debt? No. We would take on the British debt. It needs to go the other way around. I would want them to take on our debt, or start bankrolling us. We would need to be greater or equal to great power. Oh, for us to bankroll them. I would like them to bankroll us. That would be nice. We could ask for an embassy. That would get us 20 in our recognition. For the moment, there's not a lot we can do about that. So I'm not very happy about our current financial situation. I think that we are not going to have time for this tooling workshop. This is mostly due to the construction inefficiency down here. We would have had this if it wasn't for that construction inefficiency, but alas, there's not too much we can do about that, right? So that's absolutely understood. Our GDP is not where it was before, but it's certainly up a ways. Our economy is almost manageable. Transportation shortage in Michigan again. Okay, so let's see what's going on with this. Looks like we need to import more coal. Done. So with more coal being imported, that should help matters significantly. Yeah, so the railway is now going to be producing more. We should no longer have a transportation shortage in Michigan. So that looks fine. And at this point, against the odds here, no, we need more loyalists. We absolutely need more loyalists. So that looks good for the moment. We'll see what happens with cultural exclusion here. Hopefully we just cruise right through it. We're up to 584 at this point for our GDP. I'd love to see that GDP go up, but there's not much we can do about it right now. Not much at all. We've basically maxed out our economy for the current situation. I'd love to export more wine. We can't do that. I'd love to produce some of this stuff. I mean, we are producing paper at this moment. I'm wondering how much paper is being produced. Okay, that is not a lot of paper production happening at this moment. Okay, we got an advance here, so that's now at 48%, so that's noted. If we could see our GDP spring up here, that would be a very big deal. Either of these are 50-50. I would really like the more loyalists. Unfortunately, we got the revolution progress, but this is going to cap out at 86 for right now. So that's understood. So for the moment, this is not possible for this to fire, but if it does, we're going to call in Britain. That's the idea. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to finish this tooling workshop. So that's very, very sad indeed. The plan then is, if we don't finish the tooling workshop, the plan would be to declare bankruptcy, obviously. We're going to have to do that. I'm pretty sure that pausing construction, like pause government construction, can we still do private construction when we're in default? I don't know. If so, it might be worth going into default for a couple of weeks. We're up to 475 now on our credit limit. We might have enough time to get this done. It's a hard maybe. It's a very hard maybe. So let's take a look at our market prices here. And I want to sort by market price. Okay, so we need to think about whether we're importing or exporting goods, right? So at this moment, furniture, not a big deal. We have sugar here. This is plus 75. We are, I believe, currently exporting sugar. So that's fine. We could consider dropping off at least one of these. I'm going to remove this trade route to see what happens. Okay. For the moment, that seems fine. Clothing, we are producers of at this point. So I'm not too worried about this. We are importing clothing, and that's still considered a good thing at this moment. So that seems fine. As far as paper goes, we are importing paper. I'm going to get rid of this paper import. The other two we will keep around. I want to drive employment in our paper mill here, right? So we'll see if that ends up happening. This is going to cost us a little more money, probably. Yeah. So we should definitely see this driving employment, but I think we just don't have people here. So if that's the case, then we should probably be importing paper maximally at this point. So we can do that, and then we could import a little bit here. A little bit of tea we could import. Are we exporting tea? Hang on. I don't think so. We could import a little bit of tea. Paper, of course. Tools, of course. We'd love to do that. Fertilizer, we could import a little bit of. And then luxury furniture, I'm not too concerned about, and porcelain. We don't have any orders for that. So we're not going to bother with that. So we'll get a little bit more importing going. I'm watching this number grow at this moment. Vultures upon a carcass, huh? Okay. Trade unions, sure, that seems fine. Okay. So we've got 5 weeks here. Let's run a quick check here. So, opening up the calculator, we've got 480 minus 461 divided by 3.95. That gives us 4.8. That's awfully close. That is awfully close. Okay. I think we go for it. Yeah. We definitely go for it here. We're going to get this tooling workshop done, I think. Just barely, but we're going to get it done, I think. Days of Darkness. Yes, indeed. There are Days of Darkness. We can't afford to help this. I'm sorry. Sorry, Dutch East Indies. There's no way we can afford 100 per week. We absolutely need everything we can get our hands on. But this is finishing the tooling workshop before we go into default. That's huge. That's absolutely huge. We just progressed up to voting on cultural exclusion. Hang on, something just changed. I think there was a big privatization that occurred. Was that the tooling workshop? No, it couldn't have been. Something significant just changed here. And that something is that a bunch of our debt was paid off, and that has to be a privatization event. Okay. Well, we're building a vineyard right now. That staves it off. That is a good thing for the moment. Who is this guy? This is the leader of the petite bourgeoisie and current president. Okay. Well, for now, this is absolutely fine. It is about time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we're going to continue to work on enacting cultural exclusion. Things are rough right now, but they are looking up at this juncture. We can see that our current balance, if we were to declare bankruptcy and get rid of all of this debt, our current balance would still be slightly negative, but not very. At the very least, we've stopped the outflow of populace. That's huge. So we're going to continue to grow our population. We're going to work on bringing our standard of living back up and just try to get our economy on track. Now that we have a source of tools, that alone is going to be a huge, huge deal. Where was that built? Was that in Minnesota? I don't actually know where that was built. It was built in Wisconsin. Okay. So we have a domestic source of tools. That's a big deal. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Dark Horse, Ethan Feldman, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.